What's up, bros? Welcome back to another Pokemon Sleep video. Today we are talking about what to use your Master Cookie on. So Master Cookie or Master Biscuit is this thing here. It costs 4,000 sleep points, which is the most expensive thing in the shop, but it guarantees your catch. So if you see a really good Pokemon, you might want to consider using the Master Biscuit. Now, this is going to be a long video, so for those of you who don't want to wait until the end to find out the recommendation, I'm going to give it to you now. After all of my research and considering all the numbers and the meta relevance and the costs to evolve and invest, there is only one Pokemon that I can recommend you to use your Master Biscuit on at this stage of the game, and that is Tyranitar. Now, this recommendation may change over time if new Pokemon gets released, but at the current stage of the game, this is the best investment you can make for your Master Biscuit. For those of you who want to know how I came to this conclusion, you're going to have to watch the rest of this video, and I'm sorry about that. First things first, which factors have I actually considered for your Master Biscuit to come to that conclusion? I've considered friendship points requirement to catch a Pokemon, the rarity of a Pokemon, the evolution requirements of a Pokemon, and the tier levels required for Snorlax in order for you to even meet that Pokemon. And I've also considered some meta relevance, but sometimes it's a little bit more opinionated in terms of what is meta relevant. And all of these points will come up in this video. Now, just to make sure you guys don't go wasting your Master Biscuit, first things first, don't use it on a shiny Pokemon. Yes, shiny Pokemon are rare, but they are guaranteed catches. Just use a Poke Biscuit. 1 point and it will max friendship. Secondly, if you haven't already fully built your teams and caught enough Pokemon to say, have a team for Taupe Hollow, have a team for Snowdrop Tundra, have a team for Cyan Beach, if you haven't already got one team for each, like a reasonably good team, don't go wasting your sleep points. If you just started the game, don't buy the Master Biscuit. You need to build your team. Only spend on the Master Biscuit after you've caught just about enough Pokemon and you're relatively happy with your 3 teams for the 3 currently available areas. So like you've got some berry specialists which are relatively quick for each area, or maybe you just have some generalists like a really fast Raichu with berry finding S for all 3 areas. Point is, you have to make sure you have already built a team for each of the area so that you're never struggling. Once you've done that, then save 4,000 points and then you can get the Master Biscuit. That is my recommendation. Don't start with the Master Biscuit. And just to explain to you why, it's because even the currently highest friendship requirement Pokemon, which is Tyranitar, only needs 25 friendship points, which means it's equivalent of having 25 Poke Biscuit. And 25 Poke Biscuit times 150 is still not 4,000. So actually, by value, it's better to just buy Poke Biscuits to catch Pokemon. And what I mean is the value per friendship. You're going to get more out of Poke Biscuits than you will out of Master Biscuits. And now onto the juicy bits of this video. All the factors that I've considered, starting with friendship point requirement, which is this here. By the way, this resource is on cerebi.net, so you can find it yourself. So currently, the highest friendship requirement Pokemon is Tyranitar. You will need 25 friendship points to be able to catch it. And it's only followed by a few others, which are Togekiss, Magnezone, Golem, Slarking. I'm just giving some examples. Those require 22 friendship points. And I've listed some others here, but I will put all of this in one post in my Discord later. And just for comparison, other Pokemon like Walrein, Lucario, and any of the evolutions, they take about 20 friendship points. By comparison, Sudowoodo, even though it's a fully evolved Pokemon, only costs 7 friendship points. The reason why this is a consideration is it's basically better value to use your Master Cookie, Master Biscuit, on the one that has the most friendship points, because it would have otherwise costed you more Poke Cookies or Great Cookies anyway. But considering just the friendship point alone, other good alternatives would be Togekiss, Magnezone, Golem, Slarking. Just considering friendship points, these are all good alternatives. Ampharos, any of the fully evolved starter Pokemon like Charizard, Feraligatr, Walrein, Lucario, those are all reasonable choices because of how much it costs, how many biscuits it might cost for you to catch them. Now, the second consideration is you should consider throwing your Master Biscuit at Pokemon that are a bit rarer but don't have any evolutionary stages. For example, Ditto, and I've just listed a few others here. So I've got Heracross, Absol, Kangaskhan, Pinsir, and Sableye. I believe those are the only currently available Pokemon which don't have evolutionary stages. And why you might want to consider those is because those generally you can't catch at a lower evolutionary stage and will generally cost you more biscuits. Tyranitar, for example, you could consider just catching it at a Larvitar stage, which costs less friendship points. Whereas Ditto's evolutionary line, well, you don't have a choice. You have to go for the 16 biscuits, the 16 friendship points. However, this point in itself doesn't negate how important it is for you to just choose Tyranitar as your Master Biscuit Pokemon. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that why that is. Now, the third point of consideration is how readily available a Pokemon is. Now, while I must say Ditto is rare and I have yet to encounter one, it is available in every area currently that you can access. And strangely enough, the requirements are not high. So we've got basic and great, like the requirements of encountering Ditto are not high. In contrast, Tyranitar is only available at very high tier and only in Taupe Hollow. That in Taupe Hollow, it also applies to Pupitar, but for Larvitar, it is available in Greengrass Isle. Lucario is also another Pokemon that's only available in one area. But thankfully, Riolu, its pre-evolution, is available in 3 areas and starts from basic stages, so basic tiers. So it's not as hard to get Lucario, thanks to Riolu. And while we're here, let's talk about why you even want a Lucario to begin with. You might not, because it's not that desirable because its main skill is only for Dream Shards. It does drop Soft Potato, but generally speaking, that main skill just turns most people off. Considering that most people consider Dream Shards as the most commonly available resource in the game right now. That is, if you're investing carefully. Of course, if you go spend all your Dream Shards leveling up every Pokemon that you have, then that might be a problem. Whereas by comparison, Ditto has a relatively okay main skill, but it drops 2 of the rarest ingredients in this game at level 30 and 60. So we've got Large Leak and Slowpoke Tail. Now, level 30 and 60, the ingredient available is randomized from within this pool of different ingredients, so you may not necessarily have a Ditto that drops those 2, but at least it has a chance of dropping those 2. Whereas by comparison, Pinsir, which is another Pokemon that don't have evolutions, so one of the earlier Pokemon we're talking about in terms of just having to spend 16 friendship points, and it has a decent speed, a problem, and it has a decent main skill, but the problem is, it only drops some of the most common ingredients. So between Heracross and Pinsir, for example, I would pick Heracross. They've got similar speeds, but Heracross has a chance of dropping Tasty Mushroom, which is a rarer ingredient. So here we've considered the meta relevance of a Pokemon. That is, why do you even want it? But that is still not the most important point. The fourth and most important point of consideration of why I suggested that Tyranitar is the Pokemon you use Master Biscuit for is this here plus XP requirement. So level requirement and XP requirement. 2 things. Now, Tyranitar is the currently only pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Now, this term is based off the core series games. If you don't know what it means, it doesn't really matter, but it is the only Pokemon that is, by base games, categorized as a pseudo-legendary in this game right now. And I'm thinking that's probably why the level up requirements are so high. So not only does Tyranitar currently have the highest requirement to evolve from its previous evolution, each level costs more XP to reach because it's a pseudo-legendary. And until you've done the maths, you don't realize how big of a difference we're talking about. And I'm going to refer you to one of my currently favorite resources in this game. Somebody made a beautiful Poker Sleep candy calculator to tell us how much candy and dream shards will be required to get Pokemon to a certain level. I'll leave a link to this calculator in my description below. You can also find the link in our Discord under Poke Sleep info. To use this calculator, you got to go to share and export and make a copy. And just make a copy to your own drive. I've tried downloading it, it doesn't work. It seems to only prefer to use it to be used as a Google Docs. Excel doesn't seem to work. Now, after you've made a copy, what you want to do is input some sort of starting level just to tell the app where you so what your current level is. So, for example, most Pokemon at the moment I would have at level 10 only because I would have unlocked a skill, a sub skill, or I would have caught it pretty close to that level. The current EXP requirement, let's say, is 100 to get to the next level. It will tell you in the app. So I'm talking about this thing, this thing here. So how many EXP to go? You put that in. So I'm just going to put a hypothetical number there. Let's say 100, and the level requirement to reach your evolutionary stage, because we want to evolve. Evolving gives lots of benefits, so we want Pupitar to evolve to Tyranitar. How much would it cost? So let's put in 41. And don't forget, for pseudo-legendaries, so if it wasn't a pseudo-legendary, this hypothetical Pokemon would have costed about 750 candies or so to evolve from level 10. But because it's a pseudo-legendary, it costs a lot more. Now, there is no other Pokemon that isn't a pseudo-legendary that require 41 level to evolve. The current next highest is Walrein. Walrein is pretty crazy too. You need 33 levels to evolve it. So if you remember this number, 1151, let's compare to Walrein, the currently second most difficult Pokemon to evolve. And it isn't a pseudo-legendary, so we crossed that part out. So it's only level 33. It only requires about less than half the amount of candies. And to put that into real value, just for comparison, how much would it cost you to get 500 candies? And even if I'm trying to be generous and say that candies only cost you, and using the premium exchange shop, if you use the regular exchange, it would cost more. Let's say each handy candy costs 500 sleep points, and each handy candy will give you 20 candies of that specific Pokemon, which means each Tyranitar or Larvitar candy will cost about 25 sleep points to get. And so Walrein costs 500 candies, Tyranitar costs an extra 600 candies on top of the 500. Each candy approximately worth 25 sleep points. So 25 times 600, it would cost you 15,000 sleep points if you were to evolve a Larvitar from level 10 to Tyranitar at level 41. Now, if you remember the cost of a Master Biscuit, now you see why it's way better to just use a Master Biscuit when you see a Tyranitar. You're almost essentially, saving 15,000 points by spending 4,000. Now, of course, that doesn't change the fact that you should still catch base evolutions, because you might not get a good skill roll. You can only get so many Master Biscuit every week or every month. If you catch that one Tyranitar and it has the worst skill roll ever, look, you could still use it as your team member while it's farming, but you might want to be leveling up a Larvitar on the side until it matches the power and how meta it is to your current Tyranitar. So the fact is, you should still be catching base evolutions, but if you're ready to buy that Master Biscuit, your teams are all set up, you're ready to save for that Master Biscuit, then to me, it's a no-brainer. Go for Tyranitar. And I forgot to mention when we were talking about how meta a skill is, I would say Tyranitar is meta because it can restore its own energy. And being a ingredient specialist, restoring its own energy is a good thing. Just like for berry specialists, because it will keep the rate of drop pretty high throughout the day. That is in contrast to Lucario's pretty crappy main skill. Now, the only disclaimer that I'm going to put in here now is I'm not sure if one day Sleeping Button will release another Pokemon that's even better than Tyranitar, maybe another pseudo-legendary, or maybe a legendary, like a Zapdos or a Mewtwo, or a Regigigas. And if they do, then perhaps your Master Biscuit could be better value by using it on them. Just based on my own experience from other sort of side Pokemon games like Pokemon Sleep though, legendaries are not usually released in a way that's exactly the same as regular Pokemon in the way that they're caught. Pokemon Go would have them in raids instead of in the wild. Pokemon Cafe Mix would have them as events, and you got to do these really sort of special fast-paced events to get them, etc. So I'm not sure if you actually want to save your Master Biscuit for the chance of a legendary coming up in the future, because it may not even be the same way to catch it. Might just be an event and everybody gets it if you participate, or if you just, there might be different requirements than just using friendship to catch. But, if you want to be safe, you can hold on to it until that day comes. Hopefully this video helped you, and if it did, please leave a like and subscribe so you can get more tips on Pokemon Sleep. And if you have any burning questions, come to my Discord or leave a comment in the comments section below. And if I've left out any other consideration and you want to let us know, leave it in the comments section, and if it's good, I'll favorite it, so it will show up higher on the list in the comments.